The story begins with a girl named Ava, who arrives at the airport with her bodyguard. She's the daughter of a powerful politician. At the airport, she meets her boyfriend Zed and their friend Kyle. Together, they're heading to Los Cabos for vacation. They all board the flight, and shortly after takeoff, turbulence begins. At first, everyone thinks it's normal, something that happens all the time during flights. But then Ava's bodyguard wakes up and glances out the window, only to see that one of the plane's engines is on fire. The pilot makes an announcement, explaining that a flock of birds has collided with the engine, causing the disturbance, but there's no need to panic. However, the situation worsens quickly. The engine is now fully engulfed in flames. The pilot instructs everyone to fasten their seatbelts. Chaos breaks out on the plane as passengers begin to panic and scream. Suddenly, a sharp piece of metal from the engine rips through the cabin, creating a massive hole that lets in fierce wind. Luggage starts flying everywhere, and in the chaos, some passengers are even sucked out of the plane. Within moments, the entire aircraft crashes into the Pacific Ocean, killing the pilot and many others on board. The plane has crashed in such a way that the front section is lodged against a rock, hanging precariously over a deep cliff, while the rear portion, where Ava, her boyfriend, her friend, and many other passengers are, hasn't yet flooded. Ava assumes her bodyguard has died, but suddenly, he emerges from the water, alive. They soon hear the cries of a little girl named Rosa, who is trapped underwater along with her grandmother. Ava's bodyguard dives in and rescues both of them, bringing them back to safety. Now, only a few survivors remain, and eerie sounds begin echoing from outside. Everyone is frightened, realizing they're stranded in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by unknown, possibly dangerous sea creatures. Ava's bodyguard tries to calm everyone, explaining that the plane is airlocked, meaning water won't rush in right away, and a rescue team should arrive soon. But Ava insists they shouldn't wait around. She believes they should try to swim to the surface. Her bodyguard warns that if they attempt that, they'll all be killed. The flight attendant informs everyone that before the crash, the pilot had sent out the information, which means the rescue team will be arriving very soon. Now, they have no other option but to wait. But there's a shortage of oxygen, and there's only one oxygen cylinder available on the plane. That's when Rosa's grandmother mentions that an old lady had an oxygen cylinder with her in the front section of the plane, which is now underwater. Ava's bodyguard decides he will go get that oxygen cylinder because everyone here desperately needs it. Just as he's about to dive in, Rosa's grandmother says that her husband's body is still down there, tied to a chair, and she wants him to bring back his hat. She always wanted to keep that hat as a memento. The bodyguard dives underwater, finds the hat, and also retrieves the oxygen cylinder. After that, he swims further to get food supplies, but just then, a shark shows up and attacks him. Somehow, the bodyguard escapes and makes it back up. Everyone above is extremely scared because there was so much disturbance in the water. The bodyguard gives the old lady her husband's hat and the oxygen cylinder, but before he can fully come out of the water, a shark pulls him back in, which terrifies everyone. All of them are currently inside an air pocket where the water hasn't entered yet. Now, they all move further back to where the water is lower. Everyone now understands that there are sharks in the water. Ava's friend Kyle is in severe pain because his arm is broken. Rosa's grandmother says that she's a nurse, after which she wraps his arm in such a way that it reduces the pain. Above the ocean, a helicopter is shown. It has come specifically for Ava because her father is a powerful politician, and he's trying to find Ava and the other passengers. But they can't see anything because the entire plane is underwater. Inside the plane, things are getting more intense now because sharks have entered through a hole in the lower part of the plane where many people's bodies are, and they are feeding on them. There are many sharks outside too, trying to pull the plane further down, and now the water is slowly rising higher, which means everyone must get out of there quickly. Otherwise, they will all drown. And now water starts leaking in from above as well, causing even more chaos inside the plane. The aircraft begins to shift and slide. Everyone grabs onto something to hold themselves steady as the plane slowly slips toward the edge of the rock. Its front portion is still hanging over the cliff, and if it falls, it will plunge into such deep ocean that no one will survive. So everyone decides that no matter what, they have to escape from here. The biggest challenge in front of them is the sharks. They'll have to find a way to distract them in order to reach the surface. Rosa mentions that in school, she learned sharks don't like bubbles. If they surround themselves with bubbles, sharks won't come near. Kyle then tells everyone that he saw some passengers on the plane who had scuba gear. They're going diving. If they can find that gear, they'll be able to swim up safely. But Ava's boyfriend says there's no hope left for any of them, and they're all going to die soon. Hearing this, Ava panics and locks herself inside the restroom. But shortly after, she composes herself and comes back out. Meanwhile, above the water's surface, we see the helicopter flying away. But just then, the team spots some debris from the plane floating on the water, and they realize the plane must have gone down right there. Two divers jump into the ocean. As they swim downward, they find the wreckage. One of them enters the plane while the other stays outside, looking through the window and signaling to the passengers inside, reassuring them with hand gestures that everything will be fine and they're going to be rescued. The passengers inside try to warn him to move away because there's a shark nearby, but he doesn't understand their signals. And then, suddenly, a shark attacks and drags him away. After that, they hear another scream and realize that the second diver has also been killed. At this point, Ava's boyfriend says that if they can get the oxygen tanks and gear from the divers, they might be able to escape. He spots their equipment in the lower section of the plane, but reaching it is extremely dangerous. He climbs onto a seat and looks into the water. There doesn't seem to be any movement, which means the sharks might be gone. But suddenly, he slips and falls into the water, which causes Ava to panic and scream loudly. Moments later, her boyfriend resurfaces and starts laughing. He was joking the whole time. This makes Ava furious. But just then, a shark appears and grabs his leg, trying to drag him away. Ava and Kyle quickly grab him and manage to pull him back up, but his leg is badly injured. His bone is broken. Rosa's grandmother, being a nurse, wraps a belt tightly around his leg to stop the bleeding. Then the flight attendant tells them that there's some equipment in the storage room belonging to the divers. If they can retrieve it, they might still escape. So Ava decides to go herself. The flight attendant opens the back door and lights a flare to brighten the area. Ava follows the path and reaches the storage room where the diver's gear is kept. As she starts bringing the bag up, an octopus suddenly attacks her. The flare goes out, plunging everything into darkness. Everyone above panics. The flight attendant is about to dive down to help her, but before he can, Ava returns with the bag. Inside are 4 diving suits and masks. At the same time, the plane starts shaking violently. She then sees her boyfriend. He's no longer alive. The sight breaks her completely. The shaking inside the plane is due to the front part of the wreckage slowly cracking apart, about to fall entirely into the ocean. Ava tells everyone that they need to get out of the plane right now, or they'll all die. Kyle becomes terrified and says he doesn't know how to swim. Ava tells him to wear the flotation jacket, and once he's in the water, just pull the nozzle. He won't need to swim. He'll automatically float up to the surface. And now, Ava brings the passengers oxygen masks that her bodyguard had recovered earlier. Everyone puts on their jackets, and just as they begin to move forward, the plane starts tilting. The front part of the aircraft has completely broken off and fallen into the ocean, which means they have to get out of there immediately. Rosa's grandmother says she won't go with them because she doesn't want to risk anyone's life by slowing the group down. They only have 1 oxygen cylinder, which they must share to reach the surface. Rosa's grandmother tells Ava to take care of her granddaughter. Ava promises she will, and then she and Rosa dive underwater. As they swim, a shark appears in front of them. But before it can attack, Ava throws oxygen bubbles at its face. Just like Rosa had said earlier, that sharks are scared of bubbles. The shark backs off and swims away. Meanwhile, Rosa's grandmother locks herself inside the restroom. We now see the flight attendant and Kyle, who are about to enter the water. The flight attendant dives in first and swims down, but Kyle is too scared and freezes in place. When the flight attendant realizes Kyle isn't with him, he swims back to get him. But just then, a shark attacks and kills Kyle. The flight attendant then reaches the exit hatch, where Ava and Rosa are waiting for him. They have one oxygen cylinder, so they take turns breathing from it. Now, Ava tells them both to use the oxygen cylinder to head up. She takes a deep breath from the tank, and then the flight attendant opens the nozzle on Rosa's flotation jacket, allowing it to fill with air. The two of them begin ascending toward the surface with the oxygen cylinder, and Ava is just about to open the nozzle on her own jacket when a shark appears in front of her and attacks. Ava is forced to retreat back into the plane, and soon the shark swims away again. Now, Ava has no oxygen cylinder left. She must get out as quickly as possible. But just as she tries to escape, another shark appears. The plane begins to slip and fall deeper into the ocean. Ava searches for an exit, but she can't find any way out. The wreckage continues to sink, taking her deeper underwater. Just before she's fully submerged, Ava finally finds a way out. Once outside, she opens the nozzle on her jacket, which fills with air and begins to lift her toward the surface. But now, Ava's body has completely run out of oxygen, and she loses consciousness before reaching the top. After a few moments, she regains consciousness. Thanks to the air in her jacket, she is floated to the surface. But as she looks around, no one is in sight. She realizes that her two companions who had gone up before her must have died. Just then, a helicopter arrives and lifts her up with a rope. That's when she sees Rosa and the flight attendant. They're alive. Just as she promised Rosa's grandmother, Ava truly did save Rosa. Though she lost her boyfriend, her friend, and her bodyguard, and Rosa lost her grandparents, they now have no choice but to keep moving forward. The helicopter takes them away from the site, and with that, this story comes to an end.